Hey guys, so in this video I'll be discussing the problems from 800 to 1400. The rest of the problems will be discussed by Alex. Alex right here. Yeah. So let's move on to the first one. I actually have it here. Yeah. So in this problem you had an array of integers given to you, the n and the array of integers, and you had to find that is there any subsequence inside this array the product of whose elements is not a perfect square. Okay, so it's just the statement is given to fool you. Actually, if you notice, like, let me just bring up paint here. Yeah, first black, right? Yes. So if you have a perfect square, let's say m into m. Okay, a perfect square is of this form, and another perfect square n into n. So the product of two perfect squares is a perfect square. Like one pair will be m into n, and another would be m into n. So like, you're getting me. Product of two perfect squares is always a perfect square. So we just need to find a single element which is not a perfect square. Okay, just need to find a single element which is not a perfect square, and if we do that, our job is done. So you could pause the video right now, and you could try it out again if you haven't already, and if you could, then that's great. So here is the code where yeah. So I just took the input of test cases and all, and this some macros. I defined some macros here, so don't get confused. So uh, I just check if the arrays elements are uh, what do we say, perfect squares or not. And if they are not, then I return true, and if they are, I return false. Okay, so if it returns true, I made a temporary boolean variable named ans, which is set to true. Like we found one perfect square. Okay, sorry, we found one non-perfect square. So we don't need to check the entire array again, because that sub array, like one element is also sub array, right? So one element is enough to suffice our needs. So I just continue until I reach the end of the input. Okay, so let's move on to the next problem. B, 900 difficulty. Wow, come on. Yeah. So in this problem, you might like want to read this. Yeah. So in this problem, we are given a number n, and this n signifies the number of lamps in a row. Okay. So for example, one ramp. Oh, the color black. One ramp. Oh, sorry, one lamp. Then two lamps. The test cases, example test cases, are not so good and were intended to fool you. I'll tell you later why. So let's take n is equal to 5 or something. Yeah, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we need to pause one lamp. We need to pause one lamp so that the numbers are the resultant number is maximum. Okay, so and how do we exactly do that? So the problem says that if we pause one lamp, okay, if let's say we pause this lamp right here. So let's say it had the number 8 currently onto it. Also, they all start from 0. They all start from 0, and increase by 1 every second, and when they reach 9, they turn to 0. Okay, when they reach 9, then they turn to 0. Yeah. So for example, if all of them have 8 currently on their faces, so if we pause this middle lamp, then like it will get paused at 8. Then these will stop each second later. So these will stop at 1 second late, 9, and these will stop one more second late to them, so which would be 0 and 0. Certainly this is not an optimal solution. As you can see, it's just 9890, which is not the maximum number you can obtain. So what's the logic behind this? So first I thought that we could like for this would be an easy problem. We just pause the first lamp, and then it would be 9 8 sorry 9 and then 0 and then 1 2 3, and that would be the maximum number. But that's not the case. That's not the case. Also, these test cases, they were intended to fully, as I said, 9 and 1 is 9, 2 is 9 8, so you'll be compelled to write something like that. I don't know, like, was it intended or is it just a coincidence, but that's not good. Yeah. So you have five lamps, one, two, three, four, and five. Okay. So let's say all have eight on them. Eight again. Eight, eight, eight. I'm writing from mouse, so it's difficult for me. Anyways, and we pause the second lamp. It's always optimal to pause the second lamp. Why? So when we pause the second lamp, it's 8. Okay. Then then these 1 second late, this gets paused too, as it's on the left, adjacent to it, and this gets paused to late 1 second. Now it's 989, and this one late 1 second later it's 0, and it's 1 second later this is 1. So this is the maximum number you can obtain. Okay. Now what if we pause the first number when it was at 9? So it would be something like 9 0 1 2 and 3. So this would be a big number, of course, that according to our first logic, this would be a big number. But it's always optimal to pause the second number. So like I did so many wrong attempts on this one. Like I actually figured out the correct answer, like we could pause the second lamp, like around maybe the second or the third one, but I kept failing something stupendous. Yeah. So here's the solution. So this is the test cases input. For each test case, I input n. If n is equal to 1, I print 9. Also, you had to take care of the edge cases, right? So if you just pause the second lamp when there is no second lamp, that wouldn't make any sense. So if n is equal to 1, print 9. If n is 2, print 98. If n is 3, print 989. And like again, if print 989, and if n is none of those, then like it was a pattern, right, to pause the second lamp. And then so I just print the first three lamps 989, and then start from 0 and all, and till continue until the end, till n is 0 in minus minus. So yeah, that's it for this. So um, let's move on to the third one. I'll actually get like better at this. Okay, yeah. Turn the rectangles. So this was the one which like it was fairly easy, I guess. Okay, let's take black and white. Yeah. So we had an array of let's say, what do we say, cards or something, rectangles. Okay. We had an array of rectangles with their height and width. Okay. And you had to arrange them in such an order that all of them, the pattern formed is in decreasing height. Okay. And you cannot sort them. Okay. You cannot sort them. I don't know why there are sortings in the tag, but you cannot solve them. It's not allowed. uh, like they are in this order, so you can't change their order so that they are in the correct order. Okay. And what the correct order is, let me say. So the in the problem, the correct order is given as they should be in decreasing height. Okay. The first rectangle should have some height, the second should have some height, and the third should have some height. And to do that what you can do is you can rotate them at 90 degrees. So like that's just a fancy term. Like you can exchange the width to their height. Okay. So like this, and change it to this, something like that. So like it was a fairly easy problem. You don't sort actually. So we take the first input. Okay, we take the first input and store it in a 2D array. Okay, a 2D array, like something like this. And I always keep this picture in mind. Okay, this picture in mind. And let's take an example. How do I clear this one? Anyways, yeah. So I'll put, for example, we need to put a rectangle here, okay, at position I. So the height at position I should be less than or are we allowed equals? Yes. So it's actually a non-ascending height, so we can have equal heights, okay. It can be something like this. Yeah. So less than or equal to h of I minus 1. So the idea behind this is why is it not going away? Yeah. So the idea behind this is to maximize the possibility of the next rectangle, like the next rectangle in line, to what do we say, to exist, something like that. Yeah. To maximize the possibility of the next rectangle existing while maintaining the current position. Like for example, let's say the height is mm, what let's say the height is 4 maybe. Yeah, let's say the rectangle of the current height is 4 and their width is 5, okay, but their width is 5. The height of the previous rectangle is 10. So as you can see, no matter what, we can put 5 also, we can put 5 also, and 4 also has the height. Like it could work like this. We could have height as 4, the height as 4, and the width as 5. We can ignore the widths when we count the heights, okay. So here the width is 4 and here the width is 5. So the height 5 and height 4 both would suffice, but 5 would be optimal in this case. So let's say we have the next rectangle has height 5 and width 5 too, okay. Actually they are distinct, I guess. Anyways, doesn't matter. I'm just giving an example. So it has height 5 and width 5. So you if for example we take this rectangle, if we had taken this rectangle with height 4, then you might notice that we can't put this rectangle next to it. Otherwise it would be like a non increasing one, which is not at all like required. But if we put this the rectangle with height 5 here, we can put this 5 height next rectangle adjacent to it. You're getting my point? So that's what we have to do. Like we have to maximize the possibility for the next rectangle, or to maximize the possibility for the next rectangle, and while maintaining your current position. So for example, this height, let's say this was some 11 or something. This was 11 or something. So we definitely had to put this 4 height down, okay. Like the width was, let me draw it again. So the height was 11 and the width was 4. So you can't put 11 here, otherwise it would become an increasing pattern, so which is not required. We definitely had to put this 4 down, but then this would then where did my cursor? Yeah. Then this rectangle wouldn't exist. Like if we put 4 down, this rectangle can't exist, and thus we return no. So that's basically what you have to do. And how do you do that? So and how do you do that? Actually, I stored them in an array, but you definitely don't need to do that. What you do is you keep on taking inputs and compare them to the previous one. And if both the elements, so let's just let the first element be, like it was h and w, right? So let's take h and w, height and width. And if the height and width both are less than, just a second. Yeah. So as I was saying, if both the height and width both are less than the previous height. Also keep in mind that we need to ignore the widths of the previous rectangles. Okay, whatever like we have figured it out. Once we have figured the height out of the current rectangle, we ignore the widths. We ignore their widths. They are not at all needed. So as I was saying, we take the h and w of the current rectangle from standard input, and then we compare them to the height of the previous rectangle. So h of prev. If both are less than the previous, then the current height is assigned to the maximum of h and w. You see what I'm doing here? That is, we are maximizing the possibility, like we are creating room for the next rectangle to exist, as much room as possible. Okay, we could also put W here, but that would not be that would not be, what do we say, optimal for the next rectangle. Okay, so we just put the maximum of this, and else, like else if they both are not less than, one is less than one and greater, we just put the height which lies in our limits, okay, which is less than h, less than or equal to the previous height, we put it at the current one. So the we otherwise this cur height is assigned to minimum of h comma w, and we are done, and we are done. Also we need to check, also like I was wrong here, we don't assign it directly, we put a small if statement here. If minimum, if the minimum is greater than, the previous height. So for example, what am I saying is, we have a rectangle of height 11, of height 11 here, okay, and we have the next rectangle as height as 12, sorry, the height as 12, my bad, and the width as 24. So as you can see, we cannot put this rectangle anywhere, anyway. Okay. So if we don't put this if statement, so it would just be like if b is less than, if h is less than h prev and w is less than h prev, h previous. So like that would be false. So it will move to the next statement. So current height will be assigned to minimum of h comma w, which is 12, and we are wrong here. Okay, as you cannot, as you can see, 12 cannot be assigned. So we just write if minimum of h and w is greater than the current height, we print no, just like this, and we return there. Okay, we don't need to take any further input and all. Yeah. So that's how we solve this problem. So let's see the code. The code, it might be like cumbersome, but if it is, please tell me, I'll explain it again. But yeah, so I just take input C and B. As I said, I had taken in the example, I said H and W, but here I took C and B, so please don't be confused. Yeah. And also I had to take the first input because we don't need to compare that to anything. First input can be the maximum anyways. Yeah. And also we keep our optimal solution valid there too. The height should be as maximum as possible, and the width can be what's remaining out of that. Yeah. So we take the current height and width as input, and if minimum of c comma b is greater than the previous height, okay, we print no. That's the second. Oh, I erased that. Yeah. So it is actually the this if statement in the first line itself. So we don't need to, excuse me. Yeah. So the this if statement is in the first line itself. So we, sorry, I'm so sorry. So we don't need to like execute this whole code and then check if and all. Yeah. So if minimum of c comma b is greater than a minus 1 dot f, we print no. And if it is false, we move on to the next line. Else if maximum of c comma b is greater than a minus 1 dot f, that is the previous height, this is the previous height, we assign the current height to the minimum of c comma b. Okay. Else we assign a of I dot f to maximum of c comma b, and it's exactly what we are planning to do. And also, as I told, I stored them all in an array and then compared later on, so that's completely fine too. As you can see, I got accepted. But a more like a rather more optimal solution would be to just take care of it here itself. Okay. And we could just print a no, we could just print a no here. Yeah, so I hope that was clear, and if it was not, please forgive me. Yeah. So let's move on to the next question, next problem. Which one was that? A little, wait. Which one? Yeah, key factorization. So this problem, I was stuck here, like I didn't know what to do. So I'll just explain it. How did I come up with a solution? I did not actually come up with a solution. I did not look at the editorial, though it says blue here. looked at it later when I was accepted. I actually googled this, how to do that, how to like approach this a number with k factors. Okay, k factors. So what did I actually find is what did I actually find is we store all the factors of it in a number, like in an array, and then like we print the first k minus 1 factors. Okay, we print the first k minus 1 factors in its prime factorization. For example, paint, yeah. So we have something like 2 into 2 into 2 into 3 into 3 into 3. So we store and let's say k is equal to 7. So these are the first k minus 1 6 factors, and then the kth factor, wait a second, let me just pull up the solution, and that would be much easier. Actually, I don't think so. Maybe I'm not the right person to explain this one because I did not get it myself. I'm so sorry. Anyways, let's move on to the next problem. I'll ask Alex to explain this one too. I did not get this one, to be honest. Yeah, why doesn't it come up? Or it did. Yeah, okay. So this one is rather simple. We just have to find how many words are possible, how many substrings are possible which begin with heavy and end with metal. So for example, and also they don't have to be, is my recording on? Yeah. Also they don't have to be distinct. What do I mean by that is yeah. So let's say I have a hello here, okay, and I have a metal here in the string, sorry, m, and a metal here in the string. So I can use this h anytime, as many times I want. So I can use this heavy and metal to form a heavy metal. So let's say we have a count here, so we plus it again once, and then again I can form a pair with this one, and we again plus it again. So these are two heavy metals, and we can use like heavies and metals as many times we want. Okay, so one thing to note is yeah, one thing to note is, for example, we have a long string, and this is not the perfect string I could draw, but anyways, and we have a heavy here, and two metals here, and three metals here. So like in heavy metal, the word heavy and metal, you can form the word, we can form for one h, where did my cursor go? Yeah, for one h we can form those many heavy metals as many m's are there in front of, in front of that h, if that makes sense. Like for example, I cannot make heavy metal with the previous m's, but I can make three heavy metals with these three m's. So it's something like a pseudocode would look like, for each h, like h or heavy, you might say, for each heavy in the string, count count plus is equal to the number of m's in front of it. Okay, so that's the main logic. You could pause the video right now if you couldn't solve this one, and then yeah, anyways. So let's see what the code would look like. Also, I did this with this was the logic, but let's see how will you approach the code. So we have a string. Let's put a bunch of h, m, h, m, 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 h, h. Yeah. So what did I actually say was, for each, what is my cursor? Yeah. So for each h, it is equal, for each h, the number of heavy metals is equal to the number of m's in front of it. So we could approach this problem exactly the opposite way of what did I say. So what does that sound like? So for each m, the number of heavy metals is the number of h, behind it. Okay, h is would sound weird, so I'm saying the number of h, behind it. the number of heavies behind it to sound more. Yeah, anyways. So you see what I did there? What did I explain was, for each H, the number of heavy metals is equal to the number of M's in front of it. So it's the exact opposite of that statement is also true. For each M, the number of H behind it is the number of heavy metals we can obtain for that particular M. So we iterate through the string, and maintain a temporary variable, let's say t. Okay, and whenever we encounter an H, we increment t by 1. And whenever we encounter M, whenever we come across an M, or actually we also need a final, like final answer variable or something like that, final, which is initially 0. And whenever we encounter an M, we add this t to this one. You like, you're getting me? Like, for each H I was incrementing this, like it is equal to, for example, I'm at position J. So for all the position J, from 0 to J, excluding J, because that would be an M, of course. So for each position from 0 to J minus 1, all the H's there would be stored in this t variable, and whenever we come across an M, we add this t to the final one. So like, that makes sense. For example, would this M would pair up with all the h's, as I said before. So if that makes sense, let us look at the code. And if it doesn't, please replay the video, ping me on Discord, I'll explain it to you personally. Yeah. So we take the string, and then n is s dot length, final is 0, count is 0. The t here is actually count in my code. So for I and less than n minus 4, so if we see, I was actually worried about the length of the substrings, but heavy and metal happen to have the same number of letters, so I was like overjoyed for a moment. Yeah, anyways, so for int I is equal to 0, I less than n minus 4, string z is equal to s dot sub str I comma 5. So like, if you don't know substrings, this would be very helpful for you. It would check if the further the 5 letters form 5, or yeah, 5, sorry, 5, yeah, 5 form heavy or metal. Okay, if they are equal to heavy, we increase the count. If they are equal to metal, we increase the final by the current number of h's behind that index, and we print final at the end. Okay, so like, this was fairly easy, I guess. So let's move on to which problem did we have right now. This was B1. Okay, this we did this one. 1400. Yeah. So this problem got on my nerves. Actually, I figured the logic. It was like fairly simple, but I had trouble in. I'll explain it to you later. Okay. Yeah. So you might want to read this problem. Like, it's a good problem, but the solution isn't good. Anyways, let's move on. So we are given 3 points: A point, B point, and C point, with their x and y indices. Let's draw these points. So here is the Cartesian plane. Also, I had like that one person who said he doesn't know much about geometry, coordinate geometry and all. I guess this would be a good problem for him to exercise his brains. Not the code, because I don't think, if you could not code this one, it's completely fine, because I couldn't myself. It was like, due to precision errors or something. Anyways, where does my cursor go? Wait a second. Black. Oh wait. Yeah. Now I can see my cursor. Yeah. So we have the Cartesian plane here, and we have the 3 points. So let's take some from the test cases. So 0, 1, 1, 1, whatever. So these are the points here, here, and here. So as you might notice, on a circle, like, heads up, I'm telling you, all the 3 points should lie on a circle. So like, they lie on a circle, then only it is possible. Then, array, why does it? Huh. So this is A, let's say. This is wait a second. We had to move. But, new position of A is same as the old position of B, and the new position of B is same as the old position of C. Okay, so we need to rotate this so that they are equal, so that they coincide. For example, this goes there and this goes there. So like a simple observation would be like this has to be on a circle. Okay, so like you can't do pretty much anything to determine if they lie on a circle or not, so like that's completely pointless, but anyways. And also this distance, like the distance of this arc should be equal to that arc. Why? So let's say we have this point and this point. This is a circle. Ignore my drawing skills. Yeah, so A, B and C. Now if you bring A to B, then the first condition is satisfied, that the new position of A is same as the old position of B. But B would lie somewhere around here, like that's what your intuition should say. If it doesn't, go check a doctor. Anyways, yeah. So this one, like AB is equal to AC, and also a simple like what do we what does yeah क्या बोलते yeah chord, equal lengths of chord, cut the like something, I don't know the exact statement, but yeah, the equal strength of chord equal lengths of arcs. Okay, the major arc and minor arc are of equal lengths. So that's what we could do, like AB is equal to BC. So the our first condition should be AB is equal to BC. AB is equal to BC. Okay, and the second condition should be like how do I explain? Mm, I haven't actually thought of that, how to explain it to you guys. Also, C should not lie in between A and B. Like how do? Okay, so let's take an example. A, C. Well, actually, if you think about it, AB is equal to BC will never be like it will never be in that case when A, C, and B. Okay, so if C comes in between ever, so AB will never be equal to BC, if that makes sense. So we could just skip this for now. Okay, yeah, we could just skip this for now. And we also need to find that if this circle, like this AB is equal to BC, could be true in this way also. A, B, C. This is a line. AB is equal to BC. Our first condition is met. But can you like rotate? Can you rotate the plane in such a way that A comes to B, B goes to C, and we don't care about C? So is that possible? Yes, if the circle has infinite radius. So, but that is not the optimal solution for this one. So we'll just print no here. So how do we check that? If AB plus BC, if AB plus BC is equal to AC. If AB plus BC is equal to AC, then we print a no. Okay, so I won't show you the code. Okay, I want you to like if it's okay if you couldn't code this one, but thought of the logic, because I had some I had some what do we say, a hard time figuring uh, the error out. So I did something black. So it was showing me square root of this one. Okay, so whenever we calculate distances, so let's just assume let's plot these points. So it would be minus 1000 comma 1, so it would be something here. Then this would be plus yeah, this would be plus 1000 and 1 here. Okay, so as you can see, these lie on the same line, and B point is 0 comma 0, 0 comma 0. So B is here, A is here, uh, A is here, and C is here. Okay, so AB, clearly AB is equal to AC, sorry, BC. So the first condition is met, and AB plus BC is not equal to AC. Okay, so answer should be, so the answer should be um, actually yeah. So Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The B point is where is it? A 0 comma 0 0 comma 0. uh, so actually this is the case, this is actually test case, but this is not the second test case. It's something like maybe it was 3 or 5, one of these where I failed. Yeah, so it was 0 comma 0. This was minus, I'm so sorry, I thought it was the second test case. This was minus 1000 comma 0, and this was plus of where did my cursor go? Yeah, plus of 1000 comma 0. So what did the program calculate was this distance, which should be like not precise enough, but should be precise enough to be calculated, to be compared to the other distances. So what did they do? It approximated this distance to be equal to this distance. Sorry, the other way around. It approximated this hypotenuse of this right angle triangle to be equal to this, the perpendicular. So that made the b apparently come here to 0 comma 1, and that made the solution a no, but the answer was a yes. The answer was a yes, as both our conditions were satisfied. So I was actually frustrated in that, and I ended up like looking at the editorial to see what they did. Actually, they did the same thing. They did the same thing, but they used something like some other means of calculating the some other means of verifying the second step. AB plus BC is not equal to AC. Yeah. So like that was it for this video. So thank you guys. See you in the where did the yeah. See you in the next week's maybe next week's series of 4 problems, I guess. I mean we are deciding that. Yes. Thank you.